Hello and welcome to chapter 18 of Bookish Babes After Dark. Today is something a little bit different for you. We thought we'd kind of switch things up a bit. And so we're going to bring you a discussion episode today. We're going to have a little chin wag.
A little chit chat, if you will.
A little one.
Yeah. And today we're going to be talking about taboo authors.
My favourite. My favourite subject.
Yeah.
It's like a little snack.
It's like a
So-
reward.
Obviously, there was a little bit of, shall we say, drama in the book world.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of controversy. I think it will always be a thing. Like, no matter what books you read, someone will always have an opinion,
Yep.
whether you like it or not. But twice it's been round now where it's like, whoever these people are, they're always like anonymous that will go for the throats when it comes to like taboo authors. And it's one of them where I don't understand it, because if it's not hurting you and it's not hurting anyone else, why are you having a go at them?
Yeah. So let's just have a little look. So what would you two describe a taboo author as? I'm going to Google it and see if there's a definition.
So a taboo sort of genre for me would be something that's out of the norm. It's quite forbidden.
Yeah.
It's, you shouldn't like it, but you do. It's very much just like, am I into this? Yes, I am.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those as well. It's the authors that they'll go for the topics that people want to read about, but they haven't got the balls
Yeah.
to actually write it, and these authors do.
So the definition of taboo, according to Wikipedia, is a social group's ban, prohibition, or avoidance of something based on the group's sense that it is excessively repulsive, offensive, sacred, or allowed only for certain people. Taboos may be prohibited explicitly, for example, within a legal system or religion, or implicitly, for example, by social norms or conventions, followed by a particular culture or organisation. Taboos are often meant to protect the individual, but there are other reasons for their development. So essentially, it's when a subsection of the community would disagree with that topic.
Yeah. It's like writing something that is not social norms.
Yeah.
It's not like two people being in a relationship that have no relation towards each other, whether it's blood related or it's like step sibling, foster sibling, fucking niece, nephew, uncle, whatever it is. But I think people really go in on authors that have the balls to do that, and there's so many people across Bookstagram and wherever else that enjoy this type of sort of genre, and you could put that to like erotic horror also. It's I won't say it's taboo, but it's quite forbidden. It's not something.
I found another definition of taboo, which is like short and sweet, but it's basically an activity or behaviour that is considered completely unacceptable or forbidden. Now, everybody in romance, just normal romance, just your
basic,
you run of the mill normal romance. Everyone loves a forbidden romance because it's forbidden because it's your boss, or because it's your brother's best friend, or it's your, I don't know, your bloody.
There's like a huge age gap.
That is taboo, right?
Yeah, and it's forbidden. It's not. It goes against social norms of being with someone in your age group or being with someone that isn't working with you, and you know, everything like that. It's like you wouldn't put yourselves really in that situation, but you will happily read about it.
But,
You know, you can detach
yeah,
yourself from
everyone
reality.
loves that. Everyone loves
Yeah.
that. And everyone goes feral for it. And the second that you enter the dark romance world, where Taboo's taken a little bit further, like one step further,
It's got a bit nastier.
it's not okay now.
Shit, it's the fan.
Yeah.
And it's,
I mean,
I
don't
think
get me wrong. I have a limit, and you guys know what my limit is. I really struggle to read about on the page rape and sexual assault, where it's clearly that it's not dubious or non like
it's straight up.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
literal non-consent. It's not consent, not consent. I struggle to read about that because for me it gets a little bit too real. I also struggle to read about extreme horror and like actual like incestuous relationships. Listen to our previous episode if you haven't, because it's full of that.
Oh yeah.
So I struggle with that, which is why I don't read them, because for me, I want to read a book that I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah.
You guys absolutely love that. Does that mean that you are worse people? That you are weird? No. Because we've also reviewed on here Skin of a Sinner, Come Out, Wherever You Are. Was that what it was called? Yeah.
Yeah.
Little Stranger. All of those are taboo stories. However, they're within my limit.
Yeah.
I know what my limits are. Therefore, I read what I like and I don't read what I don't like.
What you don't like.
And a
And
trigger.
that's the whole point of a trigger warning.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they are literally, as soon as you open that first page, they are there.
Yep.
It's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you choose to ignore them, if you choose to go, I can probably, you know, I can deal with this, this, and this, you go all through the book and then you go on Instagram, you go on TikTok, Goodreads, Amazon, wherever it is, and you go on there and absolutely drag that book through the mud and then choose to attack the author because of it, that is your fault. You are warned there and then. It's usually in the big fat fucking letters. And it even says at the bottom, majority of the time, if you can't cope, if these triggers are not for you, your mental health matters, you shouldn't carry on.
Yeah.
So you've chosen to ignore them, gone and read through this book and had the worst fucking time, and then gone, oh my god, this book was horrific. Literally there.
This is what these are for.
Yeah. Content warnings, anything like that. It's like watching a film. You know, majority of the time, it does say, you know, what is in it. Like
Yeah,
you got
it's
cinema, and it'll say graphic horror, it'll murder, you know,
like it has
swearing,
the
things like
it's
that.
like it's the screen, isn't it, that comes on before it's like shows you
Yeah.
the age warning, what the title
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and then it will show you all of like the sort of like the graphic warnings that are in the book, in the film. That's what content warnings are, and it just it gripes me, and it really gets on my nerves with the fact that people will pick up books, like say you've seen a quote on TikTok and you're like, oh, that tickles me fancy a little bit.
Yeah.
You'll research into it or you'll download it, and then you'll see like a, I don't know, 30 odd trigger warning list, and then they'll go, nah, it's fine, I'll still read it. They'll read it, absolutely hate it, and slate it because of certain triggers that are in it. And it's like, you read those triggers, you saw that they were there.
Fine. Yeah.
And you've still got
Why? And you've still gone and read it, and now you've slated it, and now you're attacking the authors and the people that actually like it.
Just to clarify, you don't mean, so you're not saying that it's not okay for someone to read a book and to slate it because they didn't like it. You're saying that in these reviews, these people specifically say, I didn't like it because of this trigger.
Because of this set me off.
Yeah.
If you don't like a book,
problem.
you don't like a book.
Yeah.
You know, we can all say we've DNF'd books, whether it be for trigger warnings, whether it be because the story just wasn't for us. But I would never, in good conscience, turn around to an author and say,
How dare that?
I know, again, I could never in good conscience turn around to an author and be like, this book is shit. you've done the worst thing. If I don't like it, I just move on from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
really
know,
like
if it's it, just leave it.
So I've just finished Crawl, so it's on my desk.
Mhm.
But so Audrey, not only has she put within the book, but there's also a really tiny section on the book here at the back, because obviously everybody picks up a blurb to read it.
Mm-hmm.
It says, author's note, Crawl is a dark romance. It contains disturbing content and irredeemable characters. Reader discretion is advised. That's a good idea. Everyone should do this a bit more, because when you pick up a book in a bookshop, what do? You read the back.
You read
And
the
on
back.
on the back of, so My Girl again is on my desk. On the back of My Girl, she's also got the author's note on there, and it's again, it says this is a horror story with explicit content. An extended content list is located on the author's website. Reader discretion is advised. So
Yeah.
all of the options are there for people to go and look into these. Like, don't get me wrong, I have gone into books blind. I've done it multiple times, but it's because I know that I will, if I don't like it, or if there's something that I don't like, I'll just stop reading it.
Yeah. Like, I've gone into books where I haven't bothered with the triggers because I know I don't have any.
Yeah.
You know, if you know you have triggers, and say you're reading this book and one pops up that you're not 100% with, you would easily turn around and go, it will crop up in this book at some point. I'm not comfortable reading it, so I'm just going to like bypass it.
Yeah.
But there's a thing now where some people's books, the content warnings and trigger warnings are now being put at the back of the book. So I saw this the other day. So it was on that Threads, and someone was like, why are trigger warnings now being put at the backs of books? And I think someone replied whether it was an author or not, and they put, it's because it's for the people that don't want to know about the triggers. They're more than happy to go in without it. But if you want to know the triggers, they're on the author's website.
I feel like if they're doing that,
and they are at the back of the book.
If they're doing that, there should at least be normally where the author's note and trigger warnings list are. It's like, if you want to know what they are, they're at the back of the book. They're on X page.
Yeah.
If not, buckle up, enjoy the book.
For me, they still have to have something at the front that points you to where they are, because if someone's just going to
I think there is a separate page at the front that's like, for like darker readers, the triggers are at the back. The
other thing as well on triggers, so I have 2 points on this. The first one being some author's notes. So I like this. So this was a book that I read recently in ARC called Claiming Tomorrow. We've spoken about it on here before. We had the first one, which was Breaking Yesterday, then Claiming Tomorrow. Now, these are just fluffy romances. However, some of the topics within them, there was domestic violence, sexual assault, etc. Obviously, that is a trigger. So she did an author's note that said, if you're new to my writing, I like to warn my readers that my books come with some trigger warnings. I won't list them all because it would spoil some significant plot points for you. I trust you know your limits and what you're capable of emotionally reading. In particular, the opening chapter is a flashback from Poppy's past, and it contains her memories of her sexual assault. You can skip this chapter if this trigger is too much for you. However, it does give insight into Poppy and Andrew's character and what happened to Poppy the night of the party. So it then goes to say, chapters 6, 47 and 48 contain triggers as well, but this is a pivotal part of the book. So if none of that has scared you away, I truly hope you enjoy it, and thank you for picking it up. So I understand that sometimes you can't give a full list of triggers because it will give away the book,
which is why the story away.
Which is why having it at the end of the book, I get that, because that would stop that from happening for those readers that don't really have triggers. Second point is, so I recently read, I'm part of a book club, which is a book club that's mainly read thrillers. And so I've decided to kind of dip my toe in a little bit, because I do like thrillers, even though I mainly read romance. And so we just finished it last night. We were reading a book called Speak of the Devil by Rose Wilding. Now, thrillers don't have trigger warnings in the front of them.
Yeah.
As a general rule, they don't. This book was so triggering, lots of people couldn't continue reading it. There was mentions, so there was rape and sexual assault, but also, and the bit that actually triggered me the most in the book, was that one of the chapters, she goes to the police to speak about the rape, and the officer didn't believe her and literally victim blamed her and did all of these different things. Now that was really triggering. The other thing is like they made some very derogatory terms about the age of women, saying that if it bleeds it can breed, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Now, all very, very triggering things. Why is it only romance
In romance.
that they have trigger warnings when there are so many books that have
That
such
do
bad
that.
themes that don't have them?
But I feel like it's not just like all romance books that have them in. A majority of the ones that have content warning and trigger warnings lists are your darker romances. And it's because a lot of the authors that write these dark romances, they're like indie authors. It's not like big mainstream authors.
No.
So when they're going into it, they're like, look, I know that I write some messed up stuff
Mm.
and I'm going to be really transparent with you. But I feel like the bigger it sounds like I'm like properly ranting here, but like the bigger the authors get, the more that they forget about their readers,
Yeah.
which sounds crazy to say.
But it is
But
true.
I've found that, like, especially this year, I've read a lot more indie authors and I have enjoyed reading indie authors instead of reading your big names,
Yeah.
just because when you're reading them and then say you really, really like the book, you post about it on Instagram, TikTok type of thing, they will interact with you because, again, you are the reason why they're doing it. You are
They're
the
doing what
reason,
they're doing. Yeah.
yeah, why they're able to live their dream of being an author. It's because we're reading them and absolutely like enjoying them. But I feel like thrillers could do with having trigger warnings in the front of them.
Yeah.
And there was a book that I read recently, and I recommended it to a couple of girls that I'm in a Discord book club with. And always with any of the books that I put in, I'm like, just check your triggers before you
Yeah.
go into reading it. So I'd screenshotted the triggers and sent them in. And one of the triggers was police
Yeah.
and like law enforcement. And another one of the girls said to me afterwards, she was like, I'm so glad that the author has put that in because I get really triggered by them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know what people's triggers are. So just have a fucking list
Have
of
them
them.
there.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Like
to be honest,
for
it's
the
like-
majority of us, people look for the trigger warnings.
yeah,
Like the longer they are, the better it is.
yeah,
The more I can tick them off, the better.
Yeah. And getting deep and nasty with it, most of the time it comes from past
yeah.
trauma.
I was literally about to say that.
You know, I could read books with like sexual assault in, and you know the MMC is quite pushy and he's quite forward, and it's not rape. Like obviously it's non-con and dub-con and stuff like that. The women have never voiced no,
Yeah.
you know, but obviously the MMC has gone on to push her, and she's had like this revelation where it's like this is fine, you know, I'm clearly not having a panic attack over it. So I've read stuff like that, and I've obviously read stuff that is quite nitty gritty and it is full on rape and things like that. And because I've lived through things like that, it shows to me that these women are normal and they can go on to live their lives afterwards, whether you know it has been consensual or not. And you know, and you can read, it's like all these like people with like kink shaming and things like that. Like if that's something that you're into and it's done properly and it's done right and you've got a trusting partner to do that with, there should be no shame in
No.
enjoying yourself, you know, because obviously if people have, you know, been in a relationship where there is sexual assault and where there is abuse and things like that, you can often be made to feel dirty afterwards. You know, you can often be made to feel like it was your fault and you was, you know, what you're wearing, you're asking for it. So obviously when you read these, and these MMCs, or whether it's, two women, it doesn't
Any
matter.
main character.
Yeah, as long as, the main character usually shows the other main character a lot of aftercare,
Yeah.
and it's always very like making sure they're okay, and whether, they've enjoyed it. Is there anything they wanted to try? Is there anything that's too fair for them? And most of the time, you can put yourself in that character and be like, oh, that's something that I would like to try, or that may be a bit too much for me,
Yeah.
but it's normal
Yeah.
to
Yeah, because
want to try things.
the thing with books is they are fiction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
None of these.
If you
are
can't
real.
differentiate between the two,
Yeah.
then you shouldn't be
Yeah.
reading.
But the great thing is that obviously they are fiction, but books are based on scenarios that do happen in real life. So
Yeah.
you can put yourself into the situation of the characters. You might, for example, you could lead a life where nothing's ever happened to you. So you've not been in situations where you have had something happen to you necessarily, but you maybe live like a really boring vanilla life. There's not much excitement, and it's your way of just escaping into a world that
Yeah.
you kind of wish you could be in, but you can't. And it's giving you that escape. So you've got one side
Yeah.
of it, and then you've also got the other side of it where people
Mhm.
have been affected by these things. And like you say, it either lets them know that actually it is normal, it is okay, and that they can find some kind of escape in how they feel in the situation they were in by reading about it. Because
Yeah.
sometimes if it is taboo and then they're made to feel like it's not normal, what happened to them is not okay, and
Mm.
it's they're I don't really know how to phrase it, but like they're tarnished almost. Like there's
Yeah.
something wrong with them now because this happened to them. And so they can't talk about it because people might see them differently. Well, that's
Mm.
not the case at all. And actually, reading these books is almost like their version of being able to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is. They are quite therapeutic.
But also, the other thing is like if we take away the deep level of it and just at a surface level, it's because I find it hot. Like
Yeah.
not like I've said, I know what my limits are.
Mhm.
But if you've got a masked man that wants to chase me through the woods, I actually find that a bit of a turn on. So
I'm all for it. Let's
want
Just
fucking
give
go.
me like a 10-minute head start because I might get
Yeah.
stitched.
yeah, I mean,
A breather first.
yeah, I've not ran in a while, but I'll give it a good go.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those. It's like even like personally, I use reading as an escape.
Mm-hmm.
Some people watch TV, some people watch films, some people game. I read. That is my escapism. And like if I always know when, as bad as it sounds, when I'm not in the best state of mind and I'm having a little bit of a mentee bee,
Mm-hmm.
because I read so much. So I went through a redundancy last year, and that's when my reading really picked back up again,
Mm-hmm.
because it was like, I'm stressed, I don't want to think about normal life, I'm going to escape into these books where these couples are having like the best of times and living their best lives, so I can live vicariously through them.
Through them. Yeah.
And like I found it so therapeutic to be able to do that, and to be actually have that escape with the fact that I can jump into these different worlds and into these different scenarios from the comfort of my own home. And like, plus reading's cheaper than therapy,
It is.
it also helps.
I absolutely agree. Well,
The amount of books I buy, maybe not.
I mean,
But
with a KU subscription,
it can be.
it's cheaper. Yeah,
I'm the
it's
same. Like I don't do anything other than read, and it doesn't always necessarily mean that I'm not in the right headspace. For me, it tends to be that if I'm not in the right headspace, I can't read as much. Like I just can't concentrate. But but generally I just will read all the time. Like, in fact, perfect example of this, right? Earlier this morning, I tried to do, there's a TikTok trend going around, which is 10 non-bookish facts about me.
Yeah.
I could not find 10 facts about me that did not relate to books. One of them,
I really struggled with
that.
one of them was even a slight cheat because I put small business owner because we have got the podcast in the merch business. However, technically, that is bookish related.
bookish.
Book related. That is my whole personality. What do I do about it?
Exactly. And yes, okay, people might say, okay, you're boring because you don't have a life. Well, I do, because I have work, I have my best friends, I have my family, I have an interest in F1, which, you know, is probably the only thing I'm interested in other than reading.
However, we have lived 1,000 lives.
Exactly. But
reading books.
why should I be something other than myself? Why should I try to be different and please other people just to please them, and because they think that that's the right way of being, when actually I love reading. I love this telly never gets turned on. This telly only gets turned on when my boyfriend is home and we watch TV together. And that is it.
Any other time, it
is off.
never.
I read all day, every day.
If anything, mine only goes on to go on YouTube to find ambient noise to put on in the background.
I just like a bit of tunes.
But for me, I started reading again because I read when I was younger, and I started reading again in 2022, and I started reading smut. Now, I then kind of went from that and kind of ended up finding like dark romances by accident. I only really kind of got properly into dark romance, I'd say, when we met, which was obviously like a year before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
But because I'm into that kind of stuff, I absolutely love it. And I just find it so enjoyable. And taboo things for me are not a big deal. I understand that taboo things are a big deal for some people. And I think the one message that we want to make really clear throughout this is that we're not saying that if you don't like taboo things, it's not okay. It's more,
that's the thing. You can read whatever the fuck you want to read.
Yeah.
Like, it's no skin off my nose if you only ever read contemporary romance. If you only ever read cowboy romance, because I've read some filthy ass cowboys, all right, you know, and like, I just don't understand it. But the moment it turns into bullying a community for the things that they like, for turning around to a community and saying that they are sick and they are deranged and you need help, you shouldn't be reading these, you know, and it circles back to a post that I made for Instagram. Obviously, I'd read this book. It was very dodgy.
What was the book? Just for
those
it was
it was No Way Out. So
we've spoken about this book.
Yeah, it was very like, what the fuck, like, but it was thrilling and it was exciting. I mean, yeah, there was a dead dude in it, but what can you do? So obviously I made a cheeky little post about it because the world needs to know, and the amount of slating that I got for it was ridiculous.
Have you got the post with the comments on?
Yeah, but I turned the comments off it because it was absolutely just fucking mental. But I had messages saying you are sick, you are deranged, you are hyping up rape and things like that, and I was just like, fucking hang on a minute, like, I was literally just reading a book because I liked it. But me making a post out of it isn't me hyping up, like, supporting rape and things like that, because this is a fictional situation.
Yeah, I feel like
these things aren't real. So sending me death threats and sending me that I shouldn't be alive because I'm reading the things that I'm reading is just...
That's just not okay. Out.
Hang on a minute.
And I feel like it's one of those as well. I feel like some people within sort of like the dark romance community have taken it a little bit too far. Especially with, like, there was a case recently and the guy, he basically looked like an MMC out of a dark romance.
Yeah.
Fully tattered type of thing. looked like a bad boy. But people were like basically fucking simping over him, and I'm like, this dude
has murdered people.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he killed like 2 women.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
he even said that he ran over one until she looked like spaghetti.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
so don't come for us reading a fictional man that will never exist when there is literal men and probably women out there that will go above and beyond to do things like that.
Yeah,
like you cannot say that man
Yeah.
is attractive.
when people bring it into real life.
Yeah. When it's real, it is not attractive in the slightest.
No,
it is not okay.
If I had a literal stalker, I would be, what the fuck are you doing?
I'd be shitting bricks, mate.
I could be going to the police and I'd be shitting myself all the time. In fiction, I'm like, oh, this is well cool.
I'm having the best fucking time.
That's
because we can detach from it.
Yeah.
You can turn around and be like, I can shut the book.
You read this dark stalker romance, it gets a little bit too much, or you're ready for bed, or whatever it may be, you've got to go work now. You close that book, you put it down, and you go on with your normal life. When it's real,
you can't do that.
No, it affects so many people, and it's just disgusting. But what I will say is that some of the book community do not help in this situation, because they were the ones that, there was some. There are, in every situation, there's always going to be a few bad apples.
Yeah.
There were some people in the book community that were jumping on the bandwagon with this guy and giving the rest of the community a bad name. And it's really, really frustrating, because as a community, BookTok and Bookstagram tend to have a bad rep anyway, because I have no idea why.
It's just the genre that we read, and it's the thing that, the genres that we support. And
we get restricted so much more than other platforms. Like if you're on a TikTok live, for example, and you go and write a comment, I remember it was a book club book, it was a thriller again, and it was called Pretty Girls, and I couldn't even type in the name Pretty Girls into the comments on that TikTok live, because they were filtered out for being inappropriate. Because the second that you've got a book related account, everything gets restricted, because you're seen as being all whatever. Yeah, you can go on a live where a woman's got her fucking tits out.
Yep.
Someone's promoting their OnlyFans by saying OnlyPans or whatever, and the algorithm just doesn't see it. We put on a video trying to promote skin for the podcast, and it's got an axe in it.
Like what?
And that video was taken down. I put an erotic horror post on TikTok where everything, all of the naughty words were covered up so that you couldn't see them, just like everybody else does on TikTok.
Yeah.
Somebody reported it and I got a warning on my account. So now I will not post anything that is, slightly remotely.
It stops you, it stops you from enjoying the things you want to do. And it's
just because it's taboo.
Yeah,
people think it's not okay, and it's so frustrating. But then you've also got the flip side of, like, you're restricting my freedom to like what I want to like.
Yeah, and to say what I want to say, because for all you know, you could post that book, someone could read it, and you could change their entire fucking lives over it.
Because books have that ability.
Yeah. We've read books, we've seen books, and everyone does it. They go on TikTok, they see a quote, and it's like, oh my God, it's enticed me in. I've read it, and it's changed my entire fucking life because of it.
Yeah. It's like knifers.
You could be having you could be having the shittiest time, and someone could come to you and go, oh, have you read this? Or, do you want to try this and this and this? And you could read it and be like, oh my God, that is so me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that has fixed me. That has helped me feel better about myself, or it's taken me away from a situation that I wasn't enjoying, and I don't understand. I don't understand the whole point of, like, if it's not for you, shut your fucking mouth. That's all I've got to say. If it's not for you, that's your opinion. You could. The thing is, I've commented on people's books where I've been like, someone put a post on whenever it was that was like, oh, these are the books that are DNF'd, and people are obviously a bit touchy about DNFing books.
Yeah.
And one of them was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Now I tried that and I was like, oh, that I was a bit enticed about it and stuff like that. And I think I made it 70% in, and I was like, I'm really struggling. I'm really having a bad time trying to connect with it. And I also commented and was like, yeah, I DNF'd Bride. And even and then there was loads that filtered in that was like, oh yeah, we DNF this and this and this. And there was not one single comment where someone was like having a go at you for something that you didn't like. But then I would never turn around to someone and say, why the fuck are you reading that? Why didn't you enjoy it? Or, just make it make sense.
Because the other thing as well, and this is the great thing about books, is that they are so different, and the reader that reads them takes them in different ways. So, for example, we had a book that we were going to review for the podcast, and Ellie and George started reading it before me, and they were just like, I can already tell that this is just not for me, and we don't really want to discuss this on the podcast because at no point do we want to kind of put like a negative thing on here.
No.
So I didn't read the book because at the time we had other podcast books to read, so just didn't have time. I have that book physical. I will try and read that book because the thing is I know that even though Ellie and George like a lot of the same things as me, and if they recommend a book, I know for a fact that I will like it. But I like books that these girls don't like.
Yeah.
If these girls like it, apart from erotic horror, I know I will like it.
I think it's one of those as well. When it comes to, say, like, us recommending books to you, it's like because we now know each other, it's like we know what triggers you don't like and the type of books that you do like. So it's like I've read some books where I'm like, oh, she would fucking hate this, or like she would not enjoy it. But then I've read other ones where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna scream and shout about it because I know that these girls are gonna absolutely love it.
They would love it,
and it's like I know that when I'm reading like a fluffier romance, it's not something that you guys would necessarily like. However, there's sometimes when I read one, like I've read an arc. There was an arc that I read where it was a fluffy romance, but it was taboo because technically it was forbidden. It was teacher student. But his mouth was absolutely filthy, and I was like, I actually think that these girls would enjoy this. Because I know that they prefer a bit of taboo within their books, whereas I can read ones with just none and be fine with that.
And the thing is, so have I. I've read stuff where it is just straight up fluff. I read 1,000 Boy Kisses. That is closed door romance. I read that and cried like a fucking baby. Right? And it was written so well and it was so heartbreaking, and there was not an ounce of graphic romance in it. And then I've also read some where people are getting acid poured into the butts. And I've had the best time.
I know if I've got a closed door romance, I probably won't recommend it because I think the chances of there being a closed door romance that you actually like is probably quite slim. You probably will find some where you enjoy them, but just like any old one, you'd probably be like, meh, like whatever.
I think to me, for a closed door romance, the characters have to be quite young.
Yeah.
I see there's a trigger for me. If a romance and say the characters are quite young and it's not a closed door, it's very it's kind of weird, and this is why I struggle with like high school age romances and things like that. Like with what the fuck's that one called?
Is it the Chloe Walsh one?
Yeah. So they're obviously high school age, aren't they, and stuff like that. But even then, that was quite dark. It had quite dark theme in it.
Yeah, and like they end up sleeping together. So when I first started reading it, obviously I think she's 14, and he's 17, and then I think it's maybe like only a year later they do end up sleeping together. So he's like 18 and she's 15. Now, to a lot of people, yes, technically that is not okay, and obviously for you, George, that is a trigger. Whereas for me, I'm not bothered by that because I think in my head, I go back to when I was 15 years old and when
Yeah.
I was doing those things, and actually,
Yeah.
as long as it is truly consensual,
Yeah.
I personally don't see a problem with that, because especially in today's day and age, kids are so old in
Yeah.
comparison to like when we were young. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily right, but what I'm
I mean,
saying
I got
is,
pregnant at 16, so
yeah, like,
you know.
it's not necessarily that I think it's wrong. I think that that children nowadays are getting older quicker,
Yeah.
and not just in
Yeah.
how they look, but also how they act. And it's not something that we can stop happening.
Well, I
No.
think
Where
it's
we
sort of
accept them.
really, it's sort of evident with like, you know, like our friendship. Like I'm the baby of the group, but even then, I don't act my age. I act a hell of a lot fucking older
Mm.
because with the as bad as the trauma of growing up with the internet and
Yeah.
how sort of like messed up it made like my generation, we had to grow up a hell of a lot quicker
Yeah.
because when you've got that instant access at the tip of your fingers, it's going to make you grow up. It's why it's so sort of scary for sort of the kids that are going to grow up in the next sort of like couple of years.
Like my kids, I'm terrified
Mm-hmm.
for when I have
I'm already
kids.
there now.
Yeah, you're the only mum out of the three of us, but when I have
Yeah.
kids, I'm terrified as to what it's going to be like for them. And
Mm-hmm.
it's why I think I don't personally have so much of an issue with that. I think for me, I'm like, each story, each situation, whether it be real or whether it's fictional, has background behind it that is different in every scenario. You can't tar things with like a one size fits all situation,
No.
because you've got one relationship, for example, where you might have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old, right? And they are,
But nobody can say they've never done it.
no. And the thing is
No.
like, it's the most green flag relationship you've ever been in.
Yeah.
They've been together for 2 years. He's waited. She's now,
Yeah.
late 15, going on 16. They're really in love. He's really respectful. He treats her the way that she needs to be treated. I personally, and I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong according to the law, and if you want to come for me, whatever. But to me personally, I can see myself in that situation, and as somebody looking in on it, I think that's okay. Same scenario, but he's putting pressure on her. Not okay.
Then yeah,
So,
it can take a swift turn,
so
can't
it's
it?
like every single scenario is always different. So I
Yeah.
personally can't say, yeah, okay, I'm not happy with that, or I'm not okay with
Like,
that, or whatever, because they're all different.
yeah, like with Johnny and Shannon in that, they, you know, for Shannon's age, she was so grown up
Because of what she's been
because
through.
of her family issues,
Yeah.
and it was hard to see her as a teenager, really, with how she'd grown up, and Johnny was living a completely opposite life to her, and all you could see is that they needed each other,
Yeah.
and and to me, that was enough for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's not weird for me. It's more of like, I prefer older age,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just a personal
Yeah.
preference.
Personal
But I
preference.
don't
Yeah.
care for an age gap. I'm not like, I could pass an age gap. It's not. It is
I'm not
what it
bothered.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's not something I turn around and go, "Oh my god, that is so weird." Like,
Mm.
I don't care if you're going out with someone that's 20 years older than you.
Yeah, it doesn't bother
It
me.
is what it is.
The thing with
You
the
know.
Johnny and Shannon thing as well is that in that book, okay, so yes, he is, I think he's 17 going on 18, and she's 14 going on 15, I think, at the start. But
Yeah.
obviously, I can't remember how much time goes between it. But when it comes to it, he's the one that's like, no, I can't have a relationship with this girl because she's too young. He's like,
Yeah.
no, can't do this. They are together,
Yeah.
and he's like, no, I can't touch you. No, I can't do this. She's like, I want you to. I
Yeah.
want you to. I am
Oh yeah,
ready
she
for
voices it all the way through, don't she?
And he's like, no,
Yeah,
no,
he's very respectful. He's very,
yeah,
but then you could flip it completely on its head where the MMCs just aren't respectful, and sometimes you want someone to slap you across the face and call you a little slut.
We prefer that when they're sort of like in their 20s. You know?
If
In
they're
their
old,
30s. In their 30s.
Yeah.
I want at least past 25.
I mean, I'm not bothered if they're slightly younger.
Sometimes that's what you want. You know, you want someone
Yeah.
to spit in your mouth and say, "Here,
Yeah.
fucking take it." And I'm like, yes, sir, I will.
Yeah.
You know, don't have a go at me for fucking wanting to be fucking under somebody's shoe.
Whereas like I'm quite enjoying sort of the, at least currently, like the age ranges of the fact that like they're either like 23 to like mid 30s. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's a good age. That's a good age.
they've got a job. They're financially stable.
Yeah,
It's
you
like the
know.
Batman smut that I'm basically listening to at the
Yeah.
minute. It's great. He's like in his late 30s. He's the CEO and fucking loaded.
Nice.
And you can tell the fact that they're at that age because, you know, he's like, I want to foster a kid. Like, I want to have a relationship with you. I want us to, you know, get married. She's got a stalker, but like.
So I read a book, just thinking about it, there are not many books where the FMC is older than 30.
No.
So
I've never read a book where the FMC is older than the male.
So I recently read a book. I listened to the book because for some reason I really enjoyed it, and now I've gone on like a proper hype of listening to like all of her back catalogue on Everand. But I recently listened to Baby Daddy by Kendall Ryan.
Yeah.
And the premise of the book is that she is like mid-30s and she's not met anyone yet. Like, she's not settled down, but she wants a baby. So she's gone to this clinic to go and basically go for an appointment to have her own baby on her own. And there's a guy in the lift and it breaks down. And they get speaking about it, and then she's like, yeah, so this is what I'm doing here. And he's like, well, I don't want kids. I don't want a relationship. I'm this big CEO. He's late 30s. And he's like, well, I'll be your baby daddy.
And so I've just thought I have read one where the FMC is older than the MMC. And that's Mercy by Sarah Kate.
Oh, yeah, I haven't.
Oh, yeah.
And oh, holy Christ, was that hot.
Also, Madame, isn't she older than him?
Yeah.
Well, it's marginal. We're not talking like she's 40 and he's 20.
Yeah.
In Mercy, she was late 30s and he was only in his early 20s.
Yeah. So that's probably the most extreme.
Because it's Emerson's son and the female business partner that's in it.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the only book, and then this one where the FMC was in her 30s.
What am I listening to? Oh, I'm still listening to The Trick by NJ Weeks. So obviously they start out as like
teenagers,
late teens, and they do 15 years together.
Yeah.
And obviously it comes to the end, and now they're like late 20s going into the 30s, and everything about that is just forbidden and delicious.
But I feel like it's such a well-rounded book.
Yeah,
with that,
because they don't touch each other for 15 years.
No,
you know, they're both plotting murder against each other.
Yeah, they both want to kill each other.
Yeah, but they don't touch each other for 15 years.
But like, obviously, we've gone off on some slight tangents, but essentially, the message. Well, it's not even a message; it's just a discussion.
No.
Really. The main message of the whole taboo author thing is: it is okay to like what you like. Yeah. It is okay if you don't like the same things that other people like. The issue is making somebody feel like they are less than because they like what they like, and it's trying to take away the venom towards the taboo community because at the end of the day, they provide a purpose for some people. You like other people may not like it, but that doesn't mean that it's not okay. And it really is okay to like whatever you like. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I just feel I just feel that like the majority of the stuff that happens, it is towards small indie authors. And the amount of authors now that I've seen, and I've really been on Bookstagram and TikTok now for less than a year, the amount of authors that I've seen now that are like, I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because of all of the hate and all of the...
And I don't understand it.
And
it's like you've now destroyed their dream.
I don't get it. Like, I made a comment before when we'd paused that obviously we were wanting to do a buddy read of Cat and Mouse. No, obviously that gets a lot of hate from a lot of people. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you know, it's endorsing like stalking, it's endorsing, you know, kidnapping and stuff like that. You know, whereas I made a comment before saying that rereading The Cat and Mouse feels like coming home to me. You know, that was one of the very first dark romances. I mean, I started with 50 Shades. And then I read Geordie Allen Melpass. No, she did. That was like my first sort of dip into sort of BDSM and things like that. And then it just like spiraled. And then I found Cat and Mouse when I first got my Kindle, and I was like,
I think I'm the only one not to have read that in the entire community at this point.
Yeah, but honest to God, it gets so much hate sometimes where it's like, oh, you know, Zayd's disgusting and he's filthy and he's, you know, he's kidnapping her and he's drugging her and stuff like that. But when you get really into it, Zayd is not the issue at all.
No.
The stuff that goes on behind the scenes, because Ellie's not read it, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that Addie gets wound up in is some of the worst.
So much worse.
Yeah, it's some of the worst situations that actually does happen that you could get involved in. And Zayd is the one that fixes it all for her.
Yeah.
You know.
I can't wait to read it.
Yeah. They do have the spicy moments. All right. You know, they have the little pew-pews.
Things go in places where things shouldn't go.
Yeah, where things shouldn't go. And he's, you know, but something about it, I think because it was my very first dark romance, that I will, like, praise it to the high heavens. But if it's not for you, then that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Whereas I'm like that with Den of Vipers.
Yeah, exactly. So reverse harem and why choose for me only because I like a commitment. I have commitment issues. I just want one man to
love you.
I just want the one. Okay. I don't.
Whereas like I always think that like a why choose is always, and like a reverse harem are always really interesting. Just because you've normally got all the, as bad as that, all the different personalities and all the different like parts of a relationship that you could ever want between all of the different
all of them,
guys. Because again, Den of Vipers, you've got the psycho one, you've got the quiet but really cuddly one that hates her in the beginning, but ends up being like the best one. You've got the playboy, and then you've also got sort of like the leader of the pack type thing.
Yeah.
That's what I find really interesting.
Yeah.
And there's normally that.
A little dabble in between all of it.
Yeah. There's normally that in all of them, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. It is. I will read a why choose if I just want something, you know, where I'm just feeling a little bit slutty.
Yeah, that's why I'm so excited for Vile Boys.
That's what I mean. If that's something where it's like, oh shit, and like
we three of you,
and obviously we read a book that was two women, and that's something that I've never read. You know, and even that was a breath of fresh air, because obviously being bi, I do find women attractive.
Hot.
Yeah, and I will happily tell you that you have got a cracking set of tits, you know. But reading it as well, it was like, oh,
yeah, something that you'd not done before, and you're like,
yeah, this is nice. This is
Why I'm very excited for one of the books that we've got coming up. Very, very excited for one of the books we've got coming up, because it isn't just male, female. Very excited for it.
which one's that?
For the fans.
Oh yeah.
That's
Sword fighting.
yeah.
I read Chokehold, and that was sword fighting as well. That was nasty.
I'm ready for Chokehold.
That was so good.
So yeah, we loved
Full tangent. Great episode. Lots of ranting.
All we try to say is, don't yuck on somebody's yum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoy what you like. If you do not like it,
move on.
keep your mouth shut, move on.
Simple. And on that note, that's been Bookish Babes After Dark. Taboo edition.
We've now been cancelled.
This is the last episode you see. We hope you enjoyed it, and we won't be seeing you again because we've been cancelled.
Follow us all on Instagram and TikTok.
Because we'll continue there separately.
You agree. If you don't agree, that's not my problem.
That's fine, but just don't come for us about it, because then
Yeah,
you're just doing what we've said.
Yeah, write it down, fold it up, and take it somewhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah. But if you do want to listen to more of us ranting and raving and having a good old natter about some books, more books are coming, we promise.
Yeah.
You can follow us and subscribe to us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube. We are everywhere. Slowly coming to Apple Podcast. Just give me a minute. Apple hate me. But on that note, we'll see you next week. Peace out.
Peace out.